I want to talk to you for just a few minutes about supporting your ELs during this time of distance learning. For your ELs who have internet access, we've been overwhelmed with so many resources, educational websites offering free use for the next few months. It's been incredible. But for your ELs who don't have internet access, the struggle is real. I've heard from teachers all over our district and neighboring districts reaching out, asking what they can do for those packets the teachers are having to send home. Let's talk about those take-home packets. So let's remember what a model lesson looks like in the classroom for an EL. A model lesson for an EL has 3 parts. The first is that the topic or content is the same for everyone. For your English learners, you're teaching those Georgia Standards of Excellence for all your ELs. The second part fluctuates. That's where we differentiate. That's the language function. So we might expect someone at a level 5 or 6 to be able to explain, but a student at level 1 or 2 might be able to label or match. They're talking about the same content, but they have different language functions, different expectations for what language they can receive and express. The third part of a model lesson for an EL is that they're given support. So we're going to look at these packets and how we can provide a model language packet for your ELs. Let's talk about tools. We're going to use our can-do descriptors and our language functions, and we're going to use our supports page because even though we're not meeting face-to-face, there are still lots of supports we can provide. We're going to differentiate. So don't look at the overall access score. Look at each domain score. What's their reading score? Is it 3? And the writing score is only 1? That means when you send home the reading passage, you don't have to do as much differentiation as when you send home a writing expectation. So looking at those individual domain scores is going to be key. Let's talk about this example of a reading comprehension page. This is a full page with lots of rich academic vocabulary. This is going to be a great assignment to send home to most of your native English speakers and to those English learners who are at levels 5 or 6. But when you have this passage in a packet for an English learner who's scoring a level 1 or 2 or 3, 4, this page may be overwhelming. Let's take a look at this assignment differentiated. So you'll notice that all 3 of these assignments are on the same topic. The first paper would be appropriate for an English learner at a level 1 or 2. The middle one is appropriate for an English learner at level 3, 4. And the last one is appropriate for an English learner at level 5 or 6. Now, they're all covering the same content. They all address the same standards, so they all are focused on that Georgia Standard of Excellence. And that core academic vocabulary from the standard is highlighted in all of them, but the superfluous text is taken out as needed to make it comprehensible and accessible to your ELs. You'll notice on the first paper that the text is given in short bursts, and there are images to support comprehension. On the next level, for ELP levels 3 and 4, the text gets to be more significant, about half a page, and then there's an image to support comprehension. And for levels 5 and 6, going ahead and giving them the assignment that you're giving the rest of the class is fine. Now, we'll talk about supports in a minute, and they may still need those, but this would be a great way to think about differentiating your reading passages. Let's talk about the part of the take-home packet that requires students to write. A worksheet like this that has a question and asks students to answer in complete sentences and build those sentences themselves. This is overwhelming for many ELs, but especially ELs at levels 1 and 2 and 3, and sometimes even 4. Here we can see differentiated questions for your packets. You'll notice again that all 3 of these assignments are on the same topic. All 3 of these assignments ask questions about the same process in science from the Georgia Standards of Excellence, but the questions are asked in different ways. The language is differentiated, not the content. The rigor is high and the language is lower as needed. So let's look at this. So ELs at levels 1 and 2 can label, they can use short phrases or 1 or 2 words, and they're not having to build their own sentences. An assignment like this is ideal for ELs at levels 1 and 2. ELs at levels 3 and 4 can handle more questions, and the questions can be a little wordier. You can have complete sentences and they have to choose multiple choice answers. They can build their own sentences as well, but it takes a longer time. And so shortening the amount of that type of sentence that ELs at levels 3 and 4 are given will help them not to be overwhelmed at home. And then ELs at levels 5 and 6 can have the same questions that you're giving the rest of your class. And we might add some supports, especially if you have a student you think might struggle with this particular assignment. But this assignment would be fine for an EL at level 5 or 6. Another great way to get writing from your students who are learning at home with learning packets is to ask them to make journal entries. That way they're able to write at their own level. Students who are at levels 1 and 2 might write short phrases about what they learned. Students at levels 3 and 4 will write shorter sentences, and they'll be more developing. And then your students at levels 5 and 6 would have journal entries similar to their peers. So if you have a choice when you're creating your next packet to choose an assignment where the content level is high, but the language level is low, that's going to support those ELs. Let's talk about those packets you've already got ready to send out. How can you differentiate those on the fly for your ELs before you send them home? All right, let's dig in. Take a highlighter real quick and just go over that page, highlight the key phrases. When you're faced with a page of paper that's in a language that is not your first language, the first thing you want to know is, wait, which words are most important here? That way you can look them up. Let's go ahead and block off the less important parts of the passage. Make the passage shorter and highlight the key phrases within there. For questions, we want to support those students with a couple of things. So if all of your questions are open-ended, I would reduce the number of questions that the students have to do if they're English learners, because it's going to take them a longer time to do it. I would also give them a sentence frame and a word bank. That's something you can sketch at the top really quick before you print it, before you make your copies for your ELs, and that support's provided for them. Now, before you send home your packets, remember to send home some supports. Word-to-word dictionaries in the student's first language that can translate words into English. Or your phone number, if they can text you. You can use Google Voice to get a phone number that will not give the families your actual phone number. There are things we can do without technology to support the students in the work. Now it's ready to send off. I hope this has been helpful to you as you prepare packets to send home to your English learners. I know this is not the most efficient way to teach through paper to someone who speaks a different language, but I know those families and students are grateful for all the work that you're putting in. If you need any support as you plan, let me know. I'm glad to help. Thanks.